Before I get going, there was an individual who was doing this stuff long before I did, who saw things way before anybody else did. Journalist and talk show host Anthony Hilder. Stand up, Anthony. He had the guts to do this before any talk show host wanted to get involved in doing this.
The Federal Reserve is privately owned, of course it is, and the IRS is not a federal agency. I mean, you can look at the label, the decal, the logo on the IRS. It says Department of the Treasury, whereas the official Department of the Treasury is U.S. Department of the Treasury.
The bankers for the Vatican are the Rothschilds. When the Battle of Waterloo, when Napoleon was fighting, the Rothschilds funded both sides. And what happened was, the Rothschilds realized Napoleon was losing. Nathan Rothschild rushed back into the stock market in London, spread the rumor that Napoleon was winning. Everyone knew he was funding both sides, and they said, oh, we're in trouble. He started selling his stock in a panicked fashion, and everyone else followed suit, dumping their stock. He caused a panic and a crash of the London Stock Exchange. Secretly, in the audience, he bought up the stocks of all the corporations, and that's how the Rothschilds took control of England.
This is the financial capital of the world. Are we to bring down the banksters and the international gangsters? Is there to be a revelation, a revolution? Are we not to incite an awakening that will change the course of history and change the course of the world? This is Anthony J. Hilder, and this is London, England.
They used war, and they used this uncivil war, the Morrill Tax War, to cause the conflict. And then they went to Abraham Lincoln and said, we'll lend you the money to fight the war. We'll lend you the money. Of course, they make money out of nothing, too. Right. And Abraham Lincoln said, up yours, to his credit. And he made the greenbacks. Right. And the greenbacks were the first really fiat money in America. But Abraham Lincoln said, he'd given his people a wonderful gift. And what they did was they shot Lincoln, got rid of the greenbacks, and then lent America the money for the uncivil Morrill Tax War. And that debt, that banker's debt, took 70 years to pay off, bringing us up to 1913, where the banksters had to again take control of America because the debt was paid off. And that 1913, we know about The Creature of Jekyll Island, a wonderful book, or McFadden's books, The Secrets of Federal Reserve. These are tremendous masterpieces in American history of phenomenally talented authors who wrote these books exposing what actually happened. This plan amongst the bankers to take control of America by passing the Federal Reserve Banking Act in 1913, which literally handed our money supply into the control of these unscrupulous bankers, was plotted and planned at length on Jekyll Island.
A lot has happened over the years since it was conceived in 1910 and passed into law in 1913. My reading of that history is that the original creators of the Federal Reserve System had the primary motivation of monetary control and profit, control over the banking industry. They were creating a cartel, and their primary motive, as I see it, was money and power.
The people involved originally had as their primary motive profit and control over the banking industry. They were creating a banking cartel, and I think they were focused primarily on money and power. With the passage of time, and as those original people passed away, I'm talking about J.P. Morgan and the original Rockefeller Group, they were replaced by younger men who began to get a larger vision, a vision not only of money and banking and power, but politics and ideology. They began to think in terms of a new world order, as they fondly call it. They began to think of remolding society and changing the nature of man, changing the nature of society. And I think probably along about the 1930s, 1940s, the emphasis began to move away from just money and just banking and just a banking cartel. And they began to think in terms of world political dominance.